So this begins the beginning of what is 4 and what potentially could be 6 games for us in the non-conference against top 14 teams. 4 to 6 teams. And I was worried about Houston. I mean, I was worried about Vermont, as I should have been. Houston is they're their coach. They Calvin Sampson, his teams played the same way for a long time. They play hard, they're physical, great rebounding team, a great defensive team. They win every 50-50 ball. They play the right way. They play as a team. There's a culture there for sure. They just, with the exception of one player, they bring pretty much everybody else back, and they've replaced that kid with Shed, with a great point guard from Oklahoma transfer, and so we're going to be obviously get exposed. I would think whoever wins the rebounding battle are going to be important. Both teams have demonstrated they're both really solid defensively, and big, the numbers are the top 2 teams in the KenPom ratings. These are 2 of the top defensive teams in the country, so it could be first to 50.
BP, I guess there was a lot to like yesterday, but what was maybe the one thing that you loved the most about their performance?
Well, last night, I don't know how in the world we could have shot it any better. And then to see on, 3 separate occasions, Denver Jones, Chad Baker, Miles Kelly, all have pretty hot runs where, they played really well and in great rhythm and made some incredible shots. But it was also good to see, Chaney Johnson have a period of some real dominant play, both inside and out. Dylan was great defensively. Janai was really good offensively, and played very unselfishly. Knew he was going to get doubled some, and was as excited to, not be the leading scorer because of the way they defended us, and watch some of his teammates do it. Which I was really, not surprised but really pleased. I thought we played hard for 40 minutes. Didn't foul. We defend without fouling, which was a really positive thing.
We should talk about the defense. What stands out the most about Kelvin Sampson's defense? Because it seems like every year, like y'all,
they'll blitz ball screens. They put 2 on the ball and make it really hard. But they'll also adjust if we start getting our bigs out and bother them there. They'll make that adjustment to guards. Physical getting through screens, but they don't. They don't let you. They're really brilliant ball screen defensive team. They got great help side. They make plays out of ball screens. So there are some people. I remember I listened to Bill Rafferty call the Duke game from last year, and Bill said, if I was Duke, I would never run a ball screen. Well, we're a pretty heavy ball screen offensive team, so that's just not going to happen. But that's how good they are in ball screen defense.
Bruce, you mentioned you might go with different starting lineups this year depending on the opponent, but even just the lineups you do have throughout the game, what do you want to see? What do you think your team can do well to match up against Houston with the depth you guys have?
Well, one of the things about Houston is they've got 2 front line. Their 4 and 5 are both inside players, clearly inside players that'll play 25 or 30 minutes together, and then they'll play about 10 minutes of small ball. And so they're your traditional 4-man for many teams will have a hard time with Houston because their 4-man is a monster. Roberts is a powerful player. So we'll play some big as we have. If we stay out of foul trouble, maybe play it a little bit more.
Hey, Bruce. With the election this week, obviously you've been very outspoken about your political beliefs. Has there, in support for Donald Trump, has there been any concern personally or, maybe from people around you about potential impact on the program in any facet, whether it be in recruiting or other areas?
Yeah, I'm glad it's basketball season, right? And I'm sure people that follow me on Twitter are glad that it's basketball season. And I really take more. I spend more time on issues and policy than I do politics. Really, sometimes, they do get political, but it's more about policy and issues. And obviously, with Israel being at war, and the tremendous increase and rise in anti-Semitism, public display of anti-Semitism in this country, and the things that sort of led up to a couple of Holocausts that have taken place, one back in Germany and the other one on October 7th, a year and a half ago. And so Dr. King said silence is complicity. I'm not going to be silent. As an American Jewish person that is in the public eye, I feel like it's my responsibility to try to speak the truth, know my Bible, know my history, because we do have a problem with education in this country. And so as a teacher and a coach, I do spend most of my time just trying to provide accurate information so people can have a better understanding of the situation.
Coach, you have this big non-conference schedule starting with Houston. I mean, how much is it going to help your team down the line? Was that the main motivation for having such a tough non-conference schedule?
Well, I mean, I think regardless of the outcome, playing the number 1 or 2 team on the road and a team that is as physical and old as Houston, I mean, where is it going to get harder? Maybe at Duke, maybe at Alabama. I mean, we'll have, and so, if we're fortunate enough to make the NCAA tournament, and I'm always gonna put it like that for real. What opponent will we play on a neutral site that's going to be more difficult than at Houston, at Duke, or at Alabama? I can't think of any. So if we can have some success, or we can, even survive, that's going to be good for the development of the team. And more than anything, it's just the idea of the fact that Kelvin Sampson and Houston thought this would be a good game and a series where they were willing to come here, have us go to Houston and come back to Birmingham. And same thing with Purdue. Or the same thing with Ohio State being willing to come to Atlanta and play us there. Same thing with being invited to, Maui. I think the other thing, too, that I look forward to is this. We're going to have thousands of people at the Houston game. Thousands. I don't think we were smart enough to, back when we scheduled the game, realize that this was a bye weekend for our football team. Maybe we were, and maybe that's something that encourages it, but our fans are traveling. So we'll have witnesses down there, which is a good thing.
Bruce, you talked about Chaney getting bigger and kind of more physical this offseason. When did you kind of first notice that, like, okay, this is a different looking dude than what y'all had last year?
So when we watched Chaney, like from a year ago, back early, like November, December, early January, like who was that skinny kid, right? It's like, and then you watch him now, and obviously he's done a great job with Coach Damon Davis and getting his body so powerful, and I mean, we'll need all that and then some against Houston. So Chaney's playing with confidence. He plays with great efficiency, and he is our hardest worker. It's hard to, when you got a team of really hard workers, it's hard to separate one. It really is, because Janai is one of our hardest workers. The guys that get a lot of shots are in the gym, getting shots all the time. But Chaney's, Chaney's Chaney.
Bruce, I know y'all's attention was really focused on Vermont, like you guys have talked about that the last couple of weeks. How did you balance in the preseason? I know you talked about you're scouting for UNC at one point with Chaney. How did you prepare for Houston, knowing it was going to be a massive game while still obviously giving Vermont the attention it needed? Yeah,
well, during the course of the summer, we went against almost every single non-conference opponent at some point for 2 or 3 days, and the idea would be then to just see how we might guard certain actions or what some things that we do. It's one way of also just sort of in your preseason planning, put in your zone offenses against different looks, put in your ball screen offense against different ball screen defenses. You eventually get to everything by the time we go through these scouts. But then specifically, so we worked on Houston at some point for 2 or 3 days this summer. We did the same thing with Vermont. But I think our players are intelligent, And they also would recognize if we finished the Florida Atlantic game on Friday night and we came back in Saturday and I started working on Houston because we got a big game against Houston the following Saturday. And then, okay, well, let's start working on Vermont Monday. I think you're liable to get a team that's going to take somebody for granted. I think the fact that UAB lost them, our guys respected that, recognized that. And let me tell you, outcomes have a lot to do with the players. I mean, honestly think Vermont beating UAB actually hurt their chances of beating us because they went over there, they had success. They thought perhaps that it was going to be like UAB, and it wasn't. It was more intense, and it was a more difficult challenge. And we respected Vermont. That's the biggest thing, and that's where you get good senior leadership from our guys. They take it one at a time. We're going to be fine in one-day preparation for Houston. We'll be fine. Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to taking care of the ball, keeping them off the boards, making some shots. If you do those three things, now we're going to spend a lot more time studying film and breaking everything down, and we're going to study, and we're going to, what we call rebound the basketball, take care of the basketball, make a few shots. We'll have a chance to win.